Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Akibatun lil Mustaqim. Wala ufwana ila ala dalimin. Wa salatu salam ala Rasulina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi wa ajma'in. Halin wa salim bikum. Salamu alaikum. Rahmatullah lil ikhwani fati fi Afrika wa Europa wa America wa Caribbean wa kulli makan. Salamu ala mani tabahuda lil ikhwani fi kulli makan. Okay, my dear brothers and sisters in the diaspora or on the continent or wherever you may be. I'm going to change up a little bit on a topic. I must give credit to good brother, close friend, ambassador, who I don't want to mention his name because I don't have the permission, but anyway, he's a man of peace and he's committed to the betterment of the African continent and for the African people and people in general. And he presented an article which was very interesting about the situation that happened in Russia some months back, not too far ago, in March, late March. And it was a quote unquote terrorist attack. And so he brought some issues, which was very, very good because he's an astute, very educated brother, and he brought up some facts about security. So I kind of piggybacked off what he was saying, and I wanted to present something to you about the misguided Islamic groups. This is important because this affects the Muslims and the non-Muslims, because we have Muslims who come to Islam and then begin to join these groups. You've heard me in other broadcasts where I've talked about the Sahel region and about these misguided groups and how I'm ardently opposed to them because they make matters worse. So I'll go over some details because the African and Muslim should be made aware and educated on these misguided groups, because the enemy uses these groups as a perimeter and also as a vehicle to go after all of us as a collective punishment. They've done this in the United States, they've done it in Europe, and they continue to do it after 9/11 especially. And we have many of our youngest Africans, African Americans, European Africans, whatever you want to call them in the Caribbean, who view these misguided groups as a vehicle of freedom and whatnot, which is not. And we have to be made aware of them. We have a two-sided coin of evil on this side, and I'll get into that. One is the misguided Islamic groups. And then second, we have the Western powers who fuel the misguided groups. And they are much as blame as anybody else. And then you have those who sit in the center. And all of these things play out. As you heard me saying, harping on this for weeks, we should be well-rounded in our education. You should be able to converse on many different topics because education is power. And when you have a great basis of education, I don't care if it's on this earth or it's in the interstellar space, you have that knowledge and you pass it on to children and others. When you're narrow-minded, where you only focus on one aspect of education, then you are doomed. And so we as Black people, as Africans, we can't afford that in this racist climate that we still live in today. We can't afford that. We should be well-rounded. And so this is my objective, is to give you a variety of topics for you to think about. If you agree, disagree, we understand, but I want you to think. And something like this is very deadly. We have African Americans during the height of ISIS and their reign of terror went and joined those groups. Some never made it to join them. Others were stopped in Turkey and turned over. Others made it and were killed. See, so and again, there was not talks. Only thing we had where we had many people talking about, well, they're this, they're that. That's fine and dandy, but we should be educated on them and what is their fikr, and why is it that you should join it or you should not join it. So I'm gonna get into that. And again, brothers and sisters, let me say this before we start to get on this. Now, our distractors and our haters will again, as any talk, can you believe it? Even when I talk about the interstellar space, we've had two Bob enemies who said this is terrorism. When I talked about the DNA of Egypt, Kemp, they said this was terrorism. When I talked about the Andalus, about Murabi Tun and Takrir, and how the African Muslims played an integral part in the colonization and the sultanates they developed in Andalus, they call this terrorism. Everything that's dealing with any scholarship is called terrorism. And when it's a blackface that is giving this information out, it's terrorism. So this is going to be no different. When you talk about interstellar space, I don't know how that is translated on me killing some people, 5, 10 people in some place. I don't understand the correlation. When I talk about the Sirius star system, I don't know how that translates to people who died from it. I gave a speech about the interstellar space, and suddenly many people died from that. So I don't know how they equate that to terrorism. I do not know. But nevertheless, I'm going to talk to you about that. And my dear brothers and sisters, let me add this also. You know, I know what's going on with this. I'm getting comments now that are absolutely ridiculous. And all I ask is, if you make comments, you can. I love that. No problem. But make educated comments. Don't come with something that's so bizarre and you have no proof to back it up. Because we know what you're trying to do. We're trying to dirty up the program to make it appear as though I am supporting this type of nonsense. And I'm not. Okay, my dear brothers, let me get started here. ISIS and the AQ. How deadly these Islamic groups are. I'm not here to make takfir, meaning expediation on them. That's for our learned scholars and our judges, the rightful judges, to make their opinions on them, which they have. I'm not here for that. You can find that online. There's many fatwas issued against them and explaining why they're against them, giving them the bayina, meaning proof about their concepts. I'm not going to go after any of the Muslims there and call them kafir. I'm not going to call them that. It's not here for that. But I'm here to ward off brothers, my Fulani brothers, my Hausa brothers, my Mende brothers and Mendika brothers, Wolof brothers, Jolof, all the brothers who excuse me, brothers and sisters, I had an interruption here. I'm sorry. Where am I? Oh, yeah. And we have them joining these groups that are in the Sahel. Some out of necessity, out of misguidance. See? So anyway, they're changing their tactics. And the misguided and oh boy, I'm having the calls come in here. Excuse me, my dear brothers and sisters. The changing tactics and the misguided, misdirected jihad from our brothers in ISIS and their affiliates. The ability to attract Muslims is subsiding. The pool that they're using that happened, say, 5-6 years ago, is starting to dwindle. As the information comes out about them, we have less Muslims joining them. This is a good news for us, because the enemy uses ISIS and AQ to attack me, you, any one of us. We'll talk about that issue further down the line here, inshallah ta'ala. And so we have less Muslims going to these groups, which is, it should be. So the recruitment pool for ISIS and AQ is drying up. Now, the recent killing spree in Russia and their continued criminal endeavors in Afghanistan is troublesome. Their attacks are usually target innocent individuals and other Muslims. But again, this is something these groups, and remember, you heard me talk previously about this issue. You don't join anything without paperwork. And I'm not talking about some person who gives a fatwa you never heard of, claiming that you're okay, and that the bayna they have is from the Quran, authorizing you to go to McDonald's in France or McDonald's in Los Angeles and bomb it. You be wary of that. Anytime you are being recruited by these type of groups like this, and they come up with this type of thing, they said they have the bayna. You go and get a student of knowledge or scholar quickly as you can to, I'm talking about those who's authorized and those you know they're reputable, to analyze the comments that was generated to you. This is my advice to all of us. And we've had that. We've had people who are knowledgeable but have been misguided into authorizing the attacks on individuals have nothing to do with our plight. They bombed this mall in Russia. Many women, children who have nothing to do with anything, they're innocent, they were killed. See? And again, you as a Muslim, and those who may come to Islam and think that this is jihad and this is the salvation that Subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, it's not true. It is exact opposite. It's criminal. It's criminal. And I do not know how Subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge you in this regard, but I would not want to be in this predicament. Again, we're not talking about takfir here, about me calling that Muslim who set a bomb in McDonald's a kafir, because I do not know what he believes in this. He may believe he's right in doing this. But if you give him the bayna from the Quran and the Sunnah and the Sharia or law, and he turns around and say he ignores that, then that's different. I don't have access to these people. But we've had scholars and our learned men, interview some of these guys and also dissect their concepts, and they make judgments on them. So again, that's why it's best you stay away from that. These people here are not Khawarij in the sense that they're Khawarij, but they're not in the sense like you have those who are aiding the disbelievers, which a lot of people don't touch that. They touch things about ISIS and about AQ and all these other groups who are misguided. They touch that, but they don't talk about those Khawarij who are assisting the disbelievers to harm you and me, who attack me out here, who follow me out here, who spy on me out here in behalf of the disbelievers. They don't talk about that. See, I've talked about that issue. I gave a class about the Waqat al-Islam Ashra, meaning the expeditions. There are 10 of them. 9 are verified. Number 7 is the one that's contention. It's not saying that it's authorized, but they have contentions in the sense that Islam has given us about issues of number 7, which deal with magic and sorcery and so forth and so on. Okay, so those are the issues are very technical. Their thirst for murder by the way of car bombs, pipe bombs, and attack explosives to buildings, eateries, malls, and cars are infamous. They do not target sites where Muslims don't frequent. Here is the key, brothers and sisters. They go to attack areas where if they find there's no Muslims in it, they don't attack it. But when they find that there's one or two Muslims that may be in the mall, or they know that there's Muslims working there, or they know there's Muslims who may frequent there, and they may be wayward themselves, meaning they don't pray, they are corrupted in their concepts. So they put the bomb to kill those 3 or 4 Muslims, plus kill the disbelievers or the non-Muslims as well. And this is against the Sunnah. This is against the Sharia, and it is against what the current ulama and fuqaha have said about this issue. Even though we know what the disbelievers are doing, we do not have one sultan or amir or mu'mineen who give us the order to fight against the disbelievers. We do not have that. We have 57 states, Islamic states. Each one has its own ruler. And 55 out of them are not applying by the Sharia law. So where are you getting your authorization to join this group to go kill disbelievers in their land? Where is it? And the fatwa that was given, yes, during the early stages of ISIS, they were given fatwas assuring why they can do this. Because when ISIS began, they began with the U.S. Let's be honest, the U.S. funded them. Not saying U.S. said they knew they were going to do later, no. But famed senator who's now dead went there and talked to the prior leader who's dead now, who was killed, and told him, look, we'll give you this and we'll give you weapons, but we need you to do that. He took this money and recruited Muslims to come to try to take over the governments of Syria and then Iraq. He was almost successful in Iraq. And this is with American taxpayers' money. See? And then we spend trillions still trying to defeat them. Their target sites were non-Muslims and Muslims gather. If the site is exclusively non-Muslims, that site is safe. This is the thing that's why it's upsetting. And you brothers and sisters, Africans, my brothers and sisters, you should look at this analysis. When you are thinking, well, you know what? I want to join these groups because I want to live under Sharia law. Yes, they profess the Sharia law, but there's other things they do not agree with, and they throw their ideology in it. Again, like bombing a McDonald's or bombing a mall or bombing a cargo plane. See, which runs contrary to all that we understand our Sharia law to be. Okay, we got a couple of here. Let me acknowledge them. How you doing, BI? Only terrorism so far as it shutters their confused and worldwide. Okay, let me see. Let me understand. Only terrorism insofar as it shutters their confused world. Yes, my dear brother, this is a statement. The terrorism, let's be honest with this. In Islam, subhanahu wa ta'ala and our Prophet ﷺ has given us a guide about when you deviate from the commands of Allah, you run risk of being contaminated by shaitan and the shayatin, by the devil and his demons. When you're running Sirat al-Mustaqim, you're going to get attacked by the demons, no doubt. When you're sleeping, when you're not sleeping, when you're walking down the street, they will go after the strong, devout Muslims. But you will have your dhikr and you have the Sharia Allah and the Sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ in your heart, and it'll help you. See, so terrorism, when we look at it in this guy, and I'm not using the American terrorism in this regard. I'm talking about what we look at it as in Islam. I don't care what the Americans say, because you heard me say earlier in here, the Americans call this talk terrorism. They call the talk of interstellar space terrorism. They talk about going to the masjid as terrorism. Here, we're talking about something as Islamic, meaning that you're going Siratul Mustaqim, and then you deviate it. Shaitan gets to you, and you decide to go and kill, to avenge the death of Muslims in Gaza. See, you understand? And this is where we have problems. Street Sufi, what about your Yoruba brothers? Yes, I said the African. All of us are Africans, right? I don't care what ethnic group you belong to. We're all Africans. Our Yoruba brothers, whomever it may be, because we have Africans who do come to Islam. And because of the educational pool of Islam, it's very weak now. We don't have a lot of learned men to teach. A lot of them cannot, because the security apparatus who are connected to the Americans and to the Europeans have made it so, again, where they focus, and I'll get on more on that, they focus on people like us. So they curtail us, so that way we cannot educate the masses. And they fall prey to a man who comes to them, see, and he may be in a turban, talking good, and a beard and everything, and he's talking good, and then he misguide the brothers. So we have groups, we have people who have joined these groups out of ignorance. See, so the African is all of us. I don't care what group you come from. I don't care if you come from the north or you come from the south or you come from the east. You're African, and that's about, I'm talking about all of us. And thanks for showing up, my dear brother. And B1, thank you, my dear brother, for showing up. I appreciate it. Okay. And okay, now here we go here. Okay, no, excuse me here. Yeah, okay. Now, okay, now, ISIS and AQ have made Africa their home base. This is another reason why I'm talking, brothers and sisters. ISIS and the AQ are born and raised, and their concepts are germane to Jazira Arab. And they come to Africa and try to use Africans to promote their concepts. And they have no damn business being here. Because the problems and the fights that we have, the Futufola have the fights in the Sahel region, has nothing to do with the AQ and the IS and their concepts. Because here we've been fighting and trying to maintain our waterways and our grazing rights for centuries. That has nothing to do with bombing that happened in 9/11. That has nothing to do with the waywardness of what happened in Jazira Arab. So when they've come here to make their home base, we should throw them out. Yes, they are Muslims. I'm not trying to say they're not Muslims, but they are detriment and they're a hindrance to our advancement, especially among the Futafula, who and their grazing rights and so forth. My community in particular, they're contrary to them, and they try to suck us into their fight. And we've had some who've been martyred. They're not martyred. They've died in the cause of ISIS and AQ. So, and their ability to get rank and file African Muslim join has become problematic. We have small percentage. We even have less than 1% of Fulani individuals joining. We have less than 1% of Hausa. Now, when we talk about Boko Haram has made their affiliate, their bay'ah, their pledges to ISIS and the AQ. So they are among them. And even though they're Africans, their concepts are like that of Jazira Arab, where they inflict 99% of their harm on other Muslims. Kidnapping for ransom, kidnapping young, virginal Muslim girls, forcing them to marry. This is problematic. They cannot garner the support needed to dismantle a government. They don't have the power and don't have the masses to dismantle Burkina Faso or Mali or Morocco or Algeria or Libya or Egypt or any country. They don't have that kind of manpower. So what they do is they inflict other things by occasional bombings here, organizing kidnappings, trying to recruit Africans to do these dirty deeds. You, my brother, have to be rightfully guided and understanding your religion, that you do not join such groups. There's no authorization. There's no scholarly body righteous gives authorization for us to join ISIS and the AQ. None. Remember that, brothers and sisters. Even our own, the West African, I forgot what they call them, ulama, I forgot what they call them. Even this body, they may be weak, but they have never issued fatwas for any of us to join these groups who are out from Jazira Arab, and their fight there is different than our fight in the Sahel. And they have no damn business being here. They have mastered the ability of stealth attack on its prey. You have to review the enemy, and even among the Muslimin, and you have to diagnose them. You have to investigate them. You have to study them. You remember what Khalid radiallahu anhu, what he said about the enemy. He didn't say, well, hey, I don't need to look. No, he studied his enemy. He studied the disbelievers, how they operated. In recent modern times, Malcolm X, okay, we know him. He made the comment too about you had to study the Tubab and you had to study the Jews. I'm talking about in Israel, and you have to understand their mentality. This is the best way for you to understand them. That's the best way you can defeat them, and you can put a block between you and them because you have knowledge of them and their concepts. And yet, with the ability they have to get into cities, okay, and create havoc by planting bombs, pipe bombs, car bombs. They're good at this. And yet refuse to use these tempestuous arts on noted hostile state actors who routinely kill Muslims like Israel and their armies. How many attacks have you heard from ISIS and AQ in Israel? How many? Did they go join with their brothers in Gaza to go fight? They have the ability, they have learned, they have this ability. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm not giving some authorization for them to do it. That's not what I'm talking about. But we're talking about why do they kill 99.9% Muslims when they have a good fight on their hand right now in Israel? But they do not use any of these tempestuous arts to go fight an enemy who kills Muslims. And let's be honest, the Israel do not like black people. The Falasha of Habasha have been in Israel for many decades now, and they've been what they call driving by black. They've been assassinating them in cars, putting them in jail the same way like the Americans do, two Americans do to black people inside the United States. You had the Hebrews coming out of Chicago and other places who migrated according to the Jewish halakha, the Sharia, their Sharia, they have the right to, when they cannot practice their faith, it's similar to Islam, they have the right to migrate to the Jewish state. They did. And many of them were sent back, and many of them have faced decades themselves of discrimination. See, but the AQ and IS, okay, are not using these tempestuous arts to help the brothers in Gaza. See, they're not. They would prefer, matter of fact, we know them to have caused problem in Gaza in recent years. A couple of killings, assassinations here and there, but they never touch any Jews. Okay, I'm talking about the military. I'm not saying they should go and kill the average rank and file Jew. No, I'm not saying that. But the militaries are fair game who are going to attack inside Gaza. That's a different matter altogether. We have fatwas authorizing the defense of the Palestinians and their homeland. Why aren't they there to assist their brothers in that? They would prefer to kill the brothers in Gaza and leave the Jewish armies alone. This is why you, my brother, my African brother, you must study this and don't join these groups. They will get you killed. Just think if they use their mastery of tempestuous arts on the invading armies, they're good. They have the stealth. They know how to, they have the expertise on pipe bombs, car bombs, and other things they can get next to. I don't know how they do it. They get next to buildings. They get next to things and they detonate these things. They can use this expertise, okay, in this regard, in the fight of defense of Muslims, especially right now since we have fatwas, okay, from our ulama all over the place authorizing them to fight the Israelis. They should be there to assist them, but they don't. They don't want to go and hug their brother and come and say, they'd rather kill them. They'll say, well, you know, reason why I killed some of the brothers in Gaza, because they don't wear tobes and they don't wear turbans. I see some of them drinking and smoking. And yet, the Israel military passes right by them, who just is doing the same thing as he wants to do. He go kills his brother. He stands there and watch that and says nothing to do anything to protect his brother. This is why these groups are deadly and you avoid them, my dear brothers. On the state actor who is responsible for genocidally killing over 30,000 Arabs and Muslims in Gaza, they refuse to coordinate their attacks to protect Gaza. As you heard me say, this is, again, I'm giving you analysis so you can look at this. Wade through all of the crap that you read and Google and so forth on an issue like this. They don't talk about these bare essence about not killing these state actors who invade Muslim groups. Because we have to ask the question, why is it that ISIS and AQ, when they do kill, most of the time it's us, they're fellow Muslims. See? They prefer to kill Muslims in Afghanistan. Here, the Afghan government has now been back to power now, what, almost about 2 years now after after their war with the Crusaders. They finally won and they took back their country. The AQ disagreed with them, ISIS disagreed with them, and they began to attack and kill Muslims again inside Afghanistan. And as we speak, they're still doing it and they're being caught. And again, they are not focusing on state actors and their security apparatus and their intelligence apparatus who kills Muslims, they don't touch them. They would rather come to Los Angeles and go to Starbucks and bomb it, or get innocent non-Muslims on airplanes and put a pipe bomb there to bomb that and kill a whole bunch of people. But they don't touch the military and the security apparatus. I'm giving you food for thought. You have to ask the question, what kind of Muslims are these? And where is their authorization in the Sharia law? Their forces rarely suffer losses from the disbeliever armies. Security apparatus have a low death rate from the hands of ISIS and the AQ. Very low. That's funny, isn't it? They're in Yemen, see, and other places, but yet the enemies who are there, the state actors who are disbelievers, are not being targeted, nor are they suffering defeat from the hands of ISIS and AQ. They don't target them. See? Now, can a Muslim join a group who aren't qualified as mujahideen? You cannot join this group, ISIS or AQ. You're not authorized to join it. If you pull up the fatwas, especially in Arabic, again, we go back to the same issue, brothers and sisters, but I believe many of them have been translated now in English to help the Western world. Can a Muslim join a group like this? And our ulama says, no, you cannot. Even in the Quran, you look at this, because they are wayward. And you heard my talks now giving you guidance on that. You heard me talk about even some elementary things like demonstrations, how I told you I don't participate in them because they're not organized and they're not authorized, because the head of state is not given this authorization, nor do we have fatwas and to organize and say, yeah, you can go and demonstrate. I give you class on this before, where I talked about how things got out of hand. We have nobody in charge. We have no scholarly body or students knowledge giving any backdrop or knowledge on this. And it usually go awry because we have hotheads and people who don't even pray suddenly use this situation because they figure now they can go rob, and they figure they can break into stores and take phones and so forth. And these incidences happen. And then they go to attack a policeman, and the police begin to shoot everybody and beat everybody, and so forth and so on. We have to be cognizant of that. And operating without the bona fide fatwa from the ulama. You heard me, I'm a stickler. I'm very conservative about this, brothers and sisters. If you look at your ancestral brothers, especially when I've talked about the Futufola sultanates, okay, even the Moroccan sultanates, they did not operate unless the ulama, okay, or the judge gave a fatwa authorizing something. Even when they want to put a masjid up somewhere, they got a fatwa and a religious, which is a religious ruling authorizing them to do this. When it was time to go fight, they had to get an authorization. When the head of state plus the ulama under him, they examine and give the bayana, and they give the authorization for fighting. Offensive or defensive jihad. See, the IS and these other groups like this, they don't have that. Yes, they issue among themselves, but how about the governing bodies outside? I'm talking about among the Muslims, the ulama. They don't give the authorization for that. It's the exact opposite. The state actors are duly responsible for the rise and funding and deadly killing supposed to be from ISIS and their affiliates. See, this is where, again, now I'm going to get on them. Because of their mishandling of the Muslims and their funding, indirectly or directly, these groups in the early stages has led to what we see today. We have these misguided groups are everywhere. They're in the Philippines. They're in Malaysia. They're everywhere. They're in Africa. They're everywhere now. And because of this, their mishandling of this, they figured they were smart, that they would use these groups here, pay them, and then, they can use them and flush them down the toilet anytime they want. But now look at Africa. We have 25 states mired with this type of activity, not terrorism per se, but you have mujahideen groups who are fighting because of this stuff. And the Americans and the British and so forth and so on are knee deep in this. And their mishandling and malfeasance in this is why we have the problems today with them. The Western playbook is designed to target devout Muslims who aren't criminals. Because, and you look again, let's look at these statistics, brothers and sisters. When the two Western powers, they'll give you numbers of arrests, high number arrests. 99% of them are people like me. They're not affiliated with AQ or IS. They don't bomb. They don't have people under them who kill. They don't authorize killing. They don't fund anybody to kill. But we're listed as terror suspects or co-conspirators to terrorist groups, because the groups who are actually doing this, like IS, the AQ, and their affiliates, they can't get to them. So they changed the playbook now to go and say, when a Muslim goes to the masjid for Salat al-Fajr, the first prayer of the day, he is a co-conspirator. This is a precept for murder. See, or he goes to Asr, because they look at the Prophet and what he said. The two most heralded salats is the first one and then the one in the afternoon. You know the hadith of Prophet talked about this. They use that by saying this is a precept for terrorism. So their arrests and killings have been mostly devout Muslims, not those of ISIS and the AQ. They're still running amok. They're going to and from everywhere, no problem. But those like me, we can't. See, so they have used this avenue as a way to curtail Islam by stopping the education and so forth and knowledge of Islam. They use that and say, okay, you know what? We're going to stop these people here. And that way we can stop the flow of Islam. And then those who they arrest are people like me. But those in AQ and IS and those affiliates, they're not. And they'll create even false arrests. They'll say there's a few young men who talk crazy and whatnot like that. They haven't done anything, but they'll go and arrest them and say, we just stopped a terrorist attack and so forth and so on. And this is why this is so nasty. They bear a big brunt in this. Over 90% of arrested Muslims on terrorist charges are devout Muslims. Because they cannot say, they know I'm not involved in terrorism. But they'll point to one comment here and there, and they tweak the laws of their laws, okay, which do not supersede the laws of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, which is in the Sharia law or in the Torah. It does not supersede that. So they create laws and they keep moving and changing these laws in order to trap Muslims like me. See, and then they go and charge us with terrorism charges. When you look at the bare essence, you hear a prominent student of knowledge was arrested for terrorism charges. So you read the article, you waiting to see how many he's hired, how many bombs they found, how many guns they find. Well, he was linked and he's being paid by donors from some place. See, and you read and read and read, you don't see that. Then you'll finally get a comment. Yeah, well, he was arrested because he made a comment, or he was teaching Muslims something. And because of the draconian laws that are inside the United States and Europe too, and they rigged juries, they can convict anybody, any Muslim. And we have Muslims in jail for nothing they have done. And those who perpetrate criminal acts are rarely arrested. Yes, one or two are arrested here and there. But you notice something, when there's a bombing like this, what happens? There's a nationwide sweep of Muslims. They use this as a vehicle to go after everybody, or worldwide. They put worldwide alerts, and then Muslim states, African states begin to go after Muslims there. They had nothing to do with the bombing in Russia. They had nothing to do with the bombing maybe in New York City, or bombing that happened in England or France. They had nothing to do with it. But it's a worldwide alert issued and authorizing them now to start going after Muslims like me. We have none. I'm in bed. They bombed something. They bombed over in Russia. I'm in bed. 70-year-old man, student of knowledge. I'm in bed, sleep. They come after me and say, hey, we're going to go after you because of this, this, this. I had nothing to do with what happened in Russia. But they use this as a vehicle to go after prominent Muslims. And this is wrong. And we have to look at this. We got a comment here from somebody. Oh, Mustafa. Yeah. Salaam alaikum, my dear brother. Thanks for showing up. Naam, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah. Yes. Thank you, my dear brother, for your kind words. And I really appreciate it. Jazakallah khairan. So, again, the state has criminalized. The state actors have criminalized Islam, and even in Muslim states, and a majority of Muslim states today have criminalized the fundamentalism. Meaning, again, they have misdirected and gave misinformation, disinformation. When they say, people like me would say, look, we want to follow Prophet Islam fundamentally, okay? And the Sahaba and the three favorite generations, they switched this around to mean that we want to authorize killings, and that's not true. And because the knowledge is not there today on rank and file Muslims, they believe what the disbelievers say. See, and they criminalize again the Muslims' freedom of speech on these matters. I give an example. About 5-6 years ago, an African brother who was new to Islam, he decided he wanted to go because he didn't understand Islam. If he'd understood it, he would have been very careful. He shouldn't have never went to Kenya because Kenya is not a Muslim state, but he did anyway. He went to Kenya to visit on vacation. The Americans know he made his entry there because Americans have a database that cataloged most American Muslims everywhere in the world. Wherever the American Muslims are, they are cataloged there. So they knew this brother was in Kenya. So what they did, they sent the Kenyan security forces to trick him into a conversation about support for Gaza and for the Palestinians. And when he came back to the United States, they arrested for him on terrorism charges. This is what I'm talking about. So we have the Israel can make statements about killing and do killings. That's okay. But you cannot make comments in contrary, because the Americans and many European laws, they call us terrorism and supporting terrorism. Even though you didn't support them with money or anything else, by you just giving verbal support, that's enough for them to put you away for many years, especially inside the United States. Bamboozle the public with false stats of Muslim arrests, neither from ISIS nor who support them. So you under the impression, oh man, American government is something else. Boy, they just arrested a whole bunch of people. They arrested 600 of these people from AQ. When you go down and deep down and look, 99.9% of them had nothing to do with ISIS or AQ. They were arrested for making comments. They were arrested inside the masjid because they sent a proxy inside, an informant inside to go after certain devout Muslims. So they make a comment, they tape it, they arrest them. They didn't fire a shot. They don't have any bombs. They don't have guns to go after anybody. They didn't authorize. They didn't say they're going to go kill anybody. They didn't say they want to overthrow the U.S. government. None of that. But because they make comments, yes, our brother's there. we're against Israel, what they're doing in Gaza. That's enough for them to say something and go and get arrested and get put in jail for many years. And this is what I'm saying, who didn't detonate bombs or shoot innocent people. They didn't do anything like that. It's just talking. Yes, I support our brothers. I believe our brothers in Kashmir should do this, or our brothers in Pakistan should be doing that. I support that. They didn't say they support killing. They didn't say they support bombing. They didn't say that they would fund anybody to do it. They don't say and authorize anybody to leave the United States or any other place to go join these groups. They didn't say anything like this, but they're arrested for it and put in jail for it. This is why they're instrumental in what is happening to these groups, and why these groups are allowed to flourish is beyond me. Because the Western powers use these wayward groups so that way they can attack everybody. If these groups are put down, now the Americans and others don't have any vehicle anymore to go collectively after strong, devout Muslims. That's why you, my brother, who are sitting on the continent, in particular, you don't join these groups. And you be careful what you say. Because even our African states are under the thumb, and we're starting to get relief of that now, but they're still under the thumbs of the Americans. And the Americans, how many have been arrested in Nigeria over stuff that they shouldn't be arrested over? How is it that Boko Haram can still be operating and they have not been defeated yet? You have to ask that question. And yet and still, most of the arrests are dealing with, again, brothers who are trying to figure out, they've just been killed. Their antecedents wiped out. Their mothers and fathers and grandparents wiped out. So they go to talk, they get arrested. I won't get deep into the stuff I read what's happening in Nigeria, but yet and still, how many, they said they've arrested a few here and there of Boko Haram, but they're allowed to flourish. And most of the arrests are Muslims, especially in the, which I'll touch on at another segment of this, but they are trying to figure out what they should do to protect themselves. They're arrested for it. And it's dirty business, brothers and sisters. Non-Muslim Muslims, those of ISIS aren't arrested. State actors know that marginal and weak Muslims primarily join these wayward groups. They know that majority of those who are suddenly joining these forces are not people like me. They know that. And they don't target the population that we know them to be fasiq. That's in Arabic, meaning we know them to be weak in the deen, and they're corrupted in their Islamic aqidah, their belief. They're not targeted and not told what to do. You shouldn't do this. But again, people like me are targeted. I've had this many times. I have somebody I know is working with them, because you see in their faces that the devil, and they come and make a comment to me, hoping I'll say something. And even though I say something, these Tubab guys out here will turn back around and claim that I made a comment about I'm going to kill the king, or I'm going to do this, when I did not say anything like this. I talk against them like I'm doing now, but yet they say this is terrorism, but in order to inflame. And this is what they do to strong, devout Muslims. They inflame the population around them. So the Muslims living in the enclave here, they inflame everybody here. This is working with the devil, brothers and sisters. Because how you wake up in the morning and you conjure up all kinds of things so you can get at certain populations who worship subhanahu wa ta'ala, who are law-abiding, who don't authorize, who are doing like me, who are telling our brothers, don't join these groups. Yet they say this is terrorism. It's a disgrace. It's disgraceful. And so I'm talking about that today so I can help our African brothers to discern. I'm giving you incidents so you can understand. I'm giving you this deep down, analysis so that you can understand your brothers who are there in ISIS and AQ, what they're doing, why the AQ and IS don't have no business being here in Africa and in the Sahel in particular. They have none. See? So And also, I'm giving you how the disbelievers think and what they've been doing against us. You have four groups that they said. You have the fundamentalists, the traditionalists, the secularists, and the modernists. The first two, who they go after, the fundamentalists, there's no fundamentalists in Islam, but this is what they call them, and the traditionalists, ones who said they're Wahhabi, they're saying they're Salafi, and this, to so off and so forth, so on. That's who they focus on. But those who, the third and fourth, were wayward in their prayers, those who, they don't go, many of them don't go after other Muslims. They're just wayward. They drink, they smoke, they don't bother anybody. They don't go after those people. See, they only go after the first two. And the ulama and fuqaha are in the first two. That's who they focus their attention on. See, they continue to target devout Muslims. In many cases in the Sahel, they support criminal actions of the security forces. You remember, if you've been following me, I gave you what happened in Burkina Faso before the coup. 500 of the Futafula was slaughtered, men, women, and children, in a 4-day killing spree by security forces and allegedly by the Russians. And one of the vehicles that they used was the beard. If they found a man with a beard, then they killed him, claiming he was a terrorist or a person who authorized or who was affiliated to terrorists. And that's not true. We're following the Sunnah by doing this and wearing this. This is part of the Sunnah. This has nothing to do with me authorizing or me wanting to go kill somebody just because I have a turban on. Our Prophet, ﷺ, authorized this. And he has special conditions for this. This doesn't mean you go to kill. It has nothing to do with that. But the disbelievers have switched this around to make it as though this is a terrorist act or a precept to terror. These security forces kill based upon state actors' false intel and lies. Where I'm living now, I had an incident today when I was walking. A couple incidents. One was so inflamed, you saw his face. I talked to him and it quelled it. They go inflame, and I got something that, matter of fact, in my steam yard, and I may be playing some of this. I got the Tubab who was following me around in his car, okay? And it's him, they paid. And I got pictures of also one who disguised their faces and their bodies so they don't be detected. And they're hiring thugs and gangsters, okay, criminals, to go after me. And they go around and they inflame the people. This is what they do everywhere. And in the weak Muslims, the marginal, okay, modern and secularist Muslims, that's who they go to. And they feed them these lies. Make them take up weapons. Make them join security forces so they go after devout Muslims. This is part of the devil. This is called the Daifatun Adijal, meaning the party of the devil. Remember, Dajjal in the English, we know it would be Antichrist, the Christians call them, okay? We know him as the Dajjal, because this is what we know him as. This is his tactics against the strong Muslims. And I say it again, anybody who's operating like this, who wake up in the morning and have these types of what we call makayat. Makayat means manifestations from the devil. They show you all the evil ways of what you can do against another human being. This is what these guys from the embassy are doing. They're not working with subhanahu wa ta'ala. They work with the devil. Because some of the things they do, subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't guide the misguided. You see this 100 times in the Quran. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I don't guide these people. The devil do. He does that. So the state actors use false intel and lies. And when these Sahelian groups retaliate, in cases like this, they went and go kill 500 of the Futafula in Burkina Faso now 2 years ago. When our brothers retaliated, they were quickly given terror designations. Those who did the killing were safe because they are from the modernists and the secularists. They protect them. See, and this is why this whole thing is nasty. I got some comments here. Let's check what our brothers have to say here. How you doing, my dear brother? Thank you, my dear brother, for showing up. You know, brothers and sisters, this brother here is one of the kindest human beings that you can meet. And he has a nice introductory of African history. You should take this is it here. Go to his website and subscribe. This brother here is very good. He gives you a good glimpse of African history, especially for those to bring you up to speed. And it's good. And it's well thought of. And he's a good black man, African, okay, very, very good. And he's a professional teacher. So it's not like he's talking out of his head. He's got his proof there and so forth. And he teaches very slowly, which is good. So you should follow. This is what we need in the African community, rather on the continent or outside of it. When we have brothers like this, you follow them. Because even no one knows everything. And when I see brothers educated like this, I go to listen, even if I may know some of the stuff, but I may pick up some things that I didn't know or forgot about. See, that's why you follow him. That's why you follow people like me, and you follow other brothers who give you knowledge. That way you have well-rounded education. See, this is what you should do. And my brother said, interesting, talking about what has happened today about the facts of how the Western powers are knee deep and instrumental in the funding and helping the ISIS and AQ survive. They're knee deep in it. And they know it. And many have wrote the same thing. Many of them said that they've been funded by them because it's advantageous for them because they want to destroy Islam. If they keep funding them and arming them, and then they can use them so that way they can do collective punishment around the world. By, again, as you heard me say in previous broadcasts, they lumped every Fulani with the AQ and IS. See, because they're doing their murderous acts, they turn back around and say, oh yeah, these other guys over here, they're part of the AQ and they're part of ISIS. And they use this. This is devilish. It sounds like police in the West and they racially profile people. Yes, it is like a profile. It is like a profile. When you walk out the street, and this happened to me many times when I come back, especially Federal Prayer, it's dark. I come back. They use the street guardians, okay? And then these guys will go and their proxies or even the white Tuba agent will go to the street guardians. We don't have equipment. Well, it's like your night watchmen there in the United States. But we have these young men and old men too who are retired. They go to a neighborhood and they get hired to, guard and to protect and to look to make sure cars are not stolen, okay? They misuse them. The robbers and the stealers who robbing people and stuff on bicycles, they don't touch them. So they go after them by telling them to go after people like me. So when I walk down the street, they come out and then they're given police powers, instant police powers, to come to question me about why I'm coming from the masjid. How many times? And then some of them even got to the point where they tell me I can't walk past this on this street. And I've had fights because I'm not going to let anybody stop me from going to the masjid. I'm not going to let anybody stop me from worshiping Allah. And I don't care when they say they have police powers now to investigate and arrest. I said, well, you come and arrest me. This is this is devilish. These Tuba agents have these type of manifestations. They are getting things I can't even conjure up to do against another human being. They do it. How is a strong Muslim able to find these type of criminals in the community? They find them and they put them to work against devout Muslims, especially against the students of knowledge and the ulama and the fuqaha. We have people my age that cannot leave their house because the Americans and the proxies have hired thugs who wait for them to come out, and they've been beaten. And now they're too old to fight back. They cannot. So they stay in the house and they're authorized. It's a sad epitaph. I have to tell you this as it is. I come back from the masjid 2 days ago. I was coming back from the masjid, and I know what they're going to do. These guys, or they'll put these street guardians from other areas way out somewhere and bring them, so that way when they commit a crime against me, it's hard to detect them. So they'll put them, and they'll have sticks and everything. They're walking down the street looking at me, and then they'll come out. So why are you here? I'm talking to them in Arabic. So why are you here? What's the problem? Oh, I'm here to protect from people, from you and others like you, from stealing cars. I'm 70 years old, brothers and sisters. Okay? Or I'm here to rob people. Nobody's outside at Fajr prayer except the animals on the street. So how a man 70 years old looked like me with a turban, okay, walking down the street, these guys claim that they're protecting the cars, and they're protecting the building from the robbers. They accuse me of this. And this is what I'm talking about. No problem, my dear brother. You deserve these accolades because you're doing a very good job on African history. And any brothers who promote the African continent, we have to support them and give them their kudos when it's justified. And your situation is justified. You have a good program. And I'm hoping our brothers who watch this in the future will start to subscribe and get this knowledge on Africa, all of Africa. He's give you ins and outs of many things. He was just covering Zimbabwe, some facts I had forgot about. That's why I said that's why you subscribe to people like this and to other brothers. So that way, the things that you forgot about, now you brought back up to speed again. There's some issues about Zimbabwe I forgot about, but he reminded me by his class. You see them talking, this is what we have to do. Family, I've learned a lot on this page. I'm proud to be part of the family. I'm proud to be Hausa and Bamun. Yes, brother. Thank you very much for that. That's right. He's in America, but he's pronouncing his Hausa heritage. This is what the Africans in America should be doing. You get your DNA, you find out you're Fulani, you run with that. You find out you Bambara or any other ethnic group, you take that and you be proud of that designation. They're trying to exercise what Wazoo does in the West through segregation and discrimination. Yes, they're trying to put a barrier here. And they're trying to put the students of knowledge and the ulama and the learned and the educated, the intellectuals, and put them on the side here. The devil, they conjure up things against us by claiming, like when I go to Fajr prayer, I'm robbing. They said I'm selling drugs. They said I'm after the woman. They said I'm looking for prostitutes. They know it's not true, but this is what they use in order to go after me in the street of Fajr prayer. I'm telling it like it is. And they use the street guardians to do it because they can't do it themselves. Because if they're photographed or their cars are shown or whatever, they'll get in trouble for that. So they use the street guardians, and most of these are not educated, and they have no other choice because jobs are not very hard to come by all over the world today. So when they come to them, tell them they know it's wrong, and they come to them and say, "Look, you see this guy over here? He's black. He's Aswad." They use this term. He's black, meaning black. He's black. He wear a turban, and he's a criminal. They'll tell them they know it's not true, but they act on their orders. So when they come to me in this hate, I'm here to stop you from robbing. I'm here to stop you from going to the prostitutes. I'm here to stop you from going in the building to rob somebody. I'm 70 years old. So how many people I'm going to go rob at 70 years old? 70, not 20, 70 years old. And that way I look. And he said he's stopping me from go robbing somebody in the building that he's guarding. How can that be? You know how? YouTube has blocked my comments, unfortunately. Teacher, I should think you should not live around the wicked, live around the wicked. But you can't avoid that, my dear brother. See, when you're in Africa in particular, I don't care, as you heard me talk about, even if I go to Senegal, we're going to have the same problem. Because everywhere now, the Muslim Ummah is very weak. We have a lot of secularists and modernists. And this is why the disbelievers have a field day inside Africa today, because we have a lot of wayward Muslims in particular. So they have their way of recruitment. They have no jobs. They have no future. So they say, look, I'll give you a job. You put money on the table, but you're going to have to go after the ulama. You're going to have to go after the students of knowledge and the intellectuals, mufakir, that's what we call them. And all you have to do is follow them and make a report against them, and you can and put anything you want on paper and say and make a lie on them. It's okay. You say they're selling drugs, we'll go with that. This is what they tell them, so they do it to put food on the table. Yes, they will be judged by Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because in the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ made it clear that you got to be patient. You don't go by what the command. And remember in Surah 49, I think it is, Hujurat, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala even gave us further guide. He said, when an evil man come to you with something about your brother, you check it out first before you act. They forget that. But many of them, they know it, but they act anyway because they need to save their job. It's the only way they can feed their families. I understand that. I tried to be understanding in this regard. But you have a right under the Sharia to protect yourself. When he comes after you, trying to put his hands on you, talking about he's going to arrest you for robbing somebody, or he's going to arrest you because there was a car broken in 3 weeks ago and it was you. Here, I'm 70 years old, we're Ima, respected, and here he's coming to me, talking to me, I'm a criminal. See, saying that I'm the one who's doing the things. And I heard this many times from the Tubab, these agents. They'll sit there and tell the people around and say, you know what, this guy here, it's him. He's leader of the mafia. It's him who's selling the drugs. It's him who's organizing the prostitutes. It's him who is selling drugs and hashish on the corners. They know it's not me, but they act on it anyway. And it's bad. It's very, very bad. Yeah, this is a thing. There's comments generated, they don't block. When there's comments generated against me, or they don't block that. That's funny, isn't it? And when they send pornography, they don't block that either. This is why this is not right, because the Tubab doesn't want this to be, I'm talking about the agents don't want this to be exposed. They don't want to be exposed. So therefore, they go to YouTube in the security and say, look, this guy here, he's wanted. We want to get him. He's killed these people here. He's part of IS. I know how they talk, and it's not right. I'm going to give talks like this, brothers and sisters, because on my station, I try to be as honest as I can with facts and whatnot. According to misinformation, disinformation from these rogue state actors, believing in Allah and carrying out his command in precipitous terrorism, going to the masjid as precursor to terror. These rogue agents who are here claim to be Muslims. And yet when you read the Quran, and they'll read the Quran, and you see what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala tells us how many times. He say, you do good and you promote the good and you stay away from the bad. They switched it. They introduced munkar, we call that, okay? And maruf is what is good. Munkar is bad. They promote that and switch it around. Well, they promote the munkar, drugs, whoredom, assaults, all kind of character assassination. They support all of this. And those who promote the good, they go after them. They're not Muslims. That's their job to be Muslims. They're not Muslims. And when you get down to the nuts and bolts of this, how many times they've told me over the years that the Sharia law is here and their law is over that. You know what? I tell them off. And when they bring their proxies to tell me, look, if there's a dispute between us, you go by our command, not by the command of Allah. These say these guys are Muslims. They just now made Ridda and Deen. See? And it's sad. The ulama in Islamic intellectuals is the catalyst to rising crime. This is what they're saying. Look at their philosophy, what they're trying to say. This is why we have access and IQ, the AQ, because of them. They say that it's us who are catalysts to rising crime. So by me going to the masjid, how is that a catalyst to the robbers here who go rob people on the street? Or go into what we call sushi stores, a little small mini marts, and go in there and steal. So how is it that the intellectuals and students of knowledge as a catalyst to crime? But this is what the Americans and these other Tubab agents say. Using the Sharia law promotes corruption and debauchery. They say they're Muslim. How? They taking the words of Allah and they switch it around and saying and made a lie on Allah by saying that he promotes corruption and debauchery. when I go read the Quran and when I go to the masjid, how is that creating prostitution? Huh? How is that encouraging others to go make fornication? This is what we're talking about. Calling the people what is good and refraining from what is bad increases. Again, they're trying to say that when people like us who's tried to give maruf, meaning the goodness, promoting brotherhood, helping Muslims in their daily life, and then refrain back, they say this increases the criminal elements and crime in the areas. They say this encourages mafias, narcotics, and drug trafficking. How? What kind of philosophy is this? It's from the devil. Now you understand why we have AQ and IS, because these groups are used by these guys to do what I just said here, by coming up with false narratives, by claiming that the strong first two, the fundamentalists and the traditionalists, are the catalysts to crime and their detriment to the states of Muslim states and African states. Not the robber, not the man who's selling drugs, not the man who has joined these groups and go kill. Not the man who is who promotes prostitution and fornication. They don't say those are people detriment. They say that the people, the ulama and the Islamic intellectuals, mufakir, we call them, are the catalyst to all of the crime that's going on in Muslim states today. And it's incredible. It's incredible when the Muslim like me and others like me who spend their day mainly going about their business, going home, and they have their Quran, they have their studies, and they do things with their families according to what our prophet has guided us, alayhi salatu wasalam. What does it have to do with those who are robbing and taking telephones out on the street? It has nothing to do with that, but they promote this. And they claim that the ulama and the students of knowledge and intellectuals in Islam are encouraging mafias and narcotics and drug trafficking. It's wrong, brothers and sisters. So a recap of this: you stay away from the Islamic groups, okay? You stay away from these groups. And even the Jamaat Islamiyah today, that's why you notice I don't join any of them. The Prophet ﷺ is clear in the Hadith, which is authentic. He said there'll be 73 Islamic groups. The ISIS, the AQ, their other affiliates are part of the 73. But he says 72 of them are wayward. You understand now? 72, the ISIS, the other, and there's other Islamic groups who are not terror, they're not involved in terror, not involved in crime, but they're misguided. They do other things. They misquote the Quran. They do other things that's wrong in the Quran. Okay? They do things against the Quran. We have all those groups. The Prophet ﷺ said the only group that follows him. The Americans know this hadith. So they target the first group who the Prophet ﷺ talked about, who follow his way. They target them, not the 72 others. They target this group who followed the Prophet ﷺ and then called them the terrorists and called them the criminals. Said they're the backbone of the criminal mafias and the drug trafficking and the whoredom and the debauchery that these groups are. I mean, that this first group is. But the other 72, they're not talking against them. So I'm giving you this a hard-hitting topic, brothers and sisters. Again, it's not for everybody, but I'm going to give you topics that maybe many don't like. See, and so when they run, again, we have pornography. I've got, you know what, in my library, I don't know how many pictures of straight out and out sexual acts being perpetrated, putting on my program and in my Facebook account. They've never been stopped. I've screamed and hollered about that. I get comments threatening death. They don't stop that. But yet when brothers make a little comment here and there, they curtail that. This is part of the system and it's wrong. And so this is something, brothers, Again, you know, the ISIS and AQ are changing their tactics. Beware of them. Now, what has happened is the security agencies around the world are looking my direction. They're following us. They have us under technical surveillance. Everything we do, we're under surveillance. But the IS and AQ and their affiliates know that. So they have people who go to gay bars. They got people smoking cigarettes on the street. They got people who are involved in hashish to avoid detection. And then when they make a crime of quote unquote terrorism by bombing somewhere, they're caught off guard. And what did Americans and everything, what they do? They go back to us again, and some of us are arrested for a crime that we had nothing to do with, and say that we should be arrested and interviewed. We're under 100% 24-hour surveillance. And we have nothing to do with those wayward Muslims who are out on the street, who work at these groups. We have nothing to do with them. This is why they're free to bomb and do what they do, because no one's looking at them. They put hundreds of people around here waiting for me to come out. And yet still, when something happened, they get caught off guard. Putin, in a comment, on one of his telecasts, he made an interesting comment. And it's true. I'm glad he said it. He said that the terrorism that happened in Russia, okay, where they killed 100 and some people, he said it was not the ulama fuqaha and the devout Muslims. It was not them. These were wayward Muslims. They too got caught off guard because the West gave them indications that they were going to be attacked. But according to the West, being attacked meaning coming from people like me. But they were attacked. If you look at the pictures of those who they finally arrested, they're not devout Muslims. They're not devout. They're not devout. They're not students of knowledge. They're not part of the ulama. They're not intellectuals. These are poorly educated young men. And they were caught off guard. And Putin kind of acknowledged that in his speech, because the Americans told him, look, there's a possibility that you're going to be attacked. So they tried to tell you, focus on the masjid. You focus on the strong Muslims. You focus on the ulama and the fuqaha and the devout Muslims. That's who you focus on. And apparently that's what they did. They didn't detect anything. And the wayward Muslims who were hired by ISIS did this dreadful killing in Russia. What a sorry epitaph. And this is what we're talking about, brothers and sisters. And this is why I'm giving you this, because it's wrong. And I want to clear this up. And I want to make sure that you have this ammunition so you can understand. I want you to ponder my words today. It's long, but it's worth it again to talk about such a subject, because I worry about our younger Muslims. And I don't want to see them fall prey to ISIS and AQ. I don't want to see them fall prey to the American security agencies either, or any others who deploy them, telling them that what they're doing is right, to go after people like me. When if they read the Quran and the Sunnah and they understand the Sharia law, they'll realize it is wrong to go after people like me unjustly. So I'm giving you this ammunition. Don't join any of these groups. The IS, the AQ and their affiliates, and the security agencies, the Tubab agencies around, don't join them. That's Ridda and Deen, meaning you made apostasy. And you think about that. You have an elderly Muslim coming back from the masjid, getting ready to go home to his family. And then they use people who are less educated, who need these jobs, to go to attack us. Don't do it, brothers and sisters. Don't join any of these groups today. I have another comment here. Yes, my dear brother, continue. Yes, I'll keep talking and telling the truth, and I do the best of my ability. And I always try to seek guidance from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala first. And, I have to talk about this because I have my safety issues. There's no place I could go. Anyway, the African states won't let me come there. They will not. They will not. Again, And as you heard me talk the other day, they're in Gambia, they let the riffraff come into the country. African-American riffraff come in the country, but I cannot come. It's the riffraff who's causing the trouble inside the Gambia. It's not the intellectual Muslim, African-American Muslims like me. We don't cause the problems there or the problems in Sierra Leone. They had all these demonstrations. They let riffraff come into the country, gave them citizenship, and many of them involved in a lot of nefarious activities. Not people like me. We're not involved in nefarious activities, but yet still they stopped me from. I got heritage in Sierra Leone, but they will not let me make entry or give me citizenship there. But the riffraff coming from America, they bring them in the country, and so the best place for me right now is here in Al Maghrib because I have heritage here. My grandmother was taken from here. I have Amazigh heritage here. That's right, in Al Maghrib, and I have many cousins out here who are related to me who are Amazigh. See, so this is something. Like I said, I want to go see my family in the Gambia. I want to see my family in Senegal. I want to see my family in Sierra Leone and in Nigeria. And my family in Sudan, which I saw in 2008, 2009, but it was only for a short amount of time. I want to go back to see them. I have Baba down there as patriarch. He's the oldest of all the relatives I know in my family. Tree there in the Gambia. I'm always in contact with him out of respect and love and respect for him. I'm always in contact to see how he's doing. That's what we're supposed to do with our elders and our patriarchs. But I can't go to see him and hug him and sit down with him and get all of this wisdom. They won't let me. But a riffraff coming out of the United States, African American who's part of riffraff, he can come into Gambia, no problem. That's wrong. We have to change that. And that's by design. The Americans don't stop that. They only stop people like me. But the riffraff coming to the United States, and some of you know what's going on with some of our sisters too, riffraff, some of our black sisters from the United States, some of the riffraff coming from the United States, they come into Gambia, Nigeria, and Ghana and cause a hell of a lot of problems. It's by design. They're allowed to come in, but they'll stop me from coming in. It's funny, isn't it? Yes, please try. I am very, very sure it could be different for you now gaining entry. No, I've already had talks like with Sierra Leone. I had a prominent attorney told me straight out. Even Baba, he had talked to some officials and they basically told the same thing to him. So they let the riffraff come in, but then they want to stop me from coming in. They claim I'm a security threat. But yet, all the stuff that's going on, the stuff like in Ghana, we have African American sisters involved in whoredom. Okay, we have brothers riffraff involved in impregnating girls. Okay, they're allowed to come in. We have others making ill-advised comments against the Gambians and other Africans. This has been prevalent now for a couple of years now. They're allowed to come in. But those who try to promote the good and to promote the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ like me, we can't come in there. That's wrong. That's wrong. Even Senegal seems like it's slowly changing. Yes, if our young leaders, perhaps they may get the message and begin to promote. When you bring in educated intellectuals into any of the countries now, especially today, it's going to help the populace. But the Americans know that. That's why they tell them don't bring them in. And then when they say, okay, and they let riffraff women and men from the Caribbean and from the Americas come into the country who are involved in whoredom, impregnating girls, ill-advised comments, talking against Africans and all this kind of stuff, okay, putting things on YouTube that is wrong, that's allowed to come in to the countries, as you heard me say. And it's all over YouTube now. You see all kind of negative comments. You see things that's ill-advised. None of them are scholars of Islam. None of them are intellectuals of Islam or students of knowledge. They're none of that. See? Yeah, security threat. You heard why. Here, when I go out to the masjid, the two Bob agents from the U.S. Embassy said, it's me who is the godfather of the mafias. It's me that's organized the criminals to rob and steal, when they know it's not me. You see, This is and then they consider me the security threat. But those who are actually stealing, that's why they are free to do it, because they focus on me. So when I go out, they have people watching. Yeah, we got to watch him because he goes out and does this with a woman. It takes me a while to get. I have to go approximately 1 mile to the masjid from where I live. I have a short window to get over there. Where do I find time to do all this? And then from that, I take a walk, beeline. I'm back inside the house. This is the Sunnah. I do this for exercise. I come out and go back in the house to go get food, money for my family. No problem. I do that. They claim this is a precept to terrorism. I'm organizing. When I take money from the bank, they claim I'm taking this money to go fund things, to fund the criminals out on the street. They have no proof of this. I've been here 20 years and they're still saying the same thing. But many of our people in the government now are tired of this. This is why now Chad wants to throw them out. Niger is throwing them out. Senegal is talking about throwing Americans out now as well. Everybody's tired of this. Mali, they oppose the West and need new imams. You have problems in Mali because you have a lot of secularist imams there and so-called scholars. And some of them have made comments that are just mind-boggling. They talked against Sharia law. And, so they need a lot, and they will not let me in. I want to go to Mali because I do have relatives in Mali. And you heard me say I have doggone heritage as well. I would love to go visit them for the educational purposes because I want to get this knowledge firsthand and understand what they see up into the interstellar space. Secondly, I want to go to Timbuktu and go visit the famed university and the libraries are still there while the books are still available so we can read to find out all of this knowledge that they keep hidden from us. They won't let me make entry there. Yes, I'm Pulo. Yes, me Pulo. Yes, I am. Give advice to the Hausa, for Kanuri and Nigerian Muslim and also Africa as a whole. Brothers, I'm going to do a segment about this. So please bear with me and follow me on this in a couple of days, inshallah. I'm going to talk about this issue. I'm glad you mentioned this. I'm going to talk about this issue because we have a lot of misguidance. We have our house of brothers. We are very close in relationship and with the Kanuri as well. But we're being divided. And I'm going to talk about this issue. So please bear with me here and some days from now. I'm going to talk about this issue, and I'm going to give you a synopsis about this and a historical significance behind it. So please bear with me. Yes, I'm part of the full-bed community. I'm full of, and I'm proud of it. So that looks like it's about it. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to have what time? Yeah, I got prayer. I got Maghrib now. I'm looking at my damn clock here. I got Maghrib, Salat Maghrib going on. And all those who showed up, thank you. I really appreciate that. I wish more would show up. I do entertain your questions. Thank you very much for asking the questions. They're educated. They're right on point. I have no problem with questions like this. They're right on point. And we need these type of questions because we're all here to learn. When we have difficulties as African people, we need to know what our brothers are seeing and experiencing, so that way you will know. And now you got this from your elder here talking about some of the difficulties. But I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna close. Al-Maghrib stepped up. With all the shenanigans of the disbelievers and the Americans, okay, they weren't gonna put up with that. They wanted to take me so they could kill me. They weren't going to put up with that. And they don't turn Muslims over to the kafir. This is ridda. You don't take your brother and give him to the kafir. You do not do that. The Prophet talked against this. And in the Quran also. See, so to this question here, yes, I'm going to give you something about this in short time, inshallah ta'ala. So please stay tuned to this. And those who have joined, please subscribe to my station if you like this, because I'm going to give you a different talk. My brother here, the King Cams Ujumi, you get and subscribe to his station as well. Get this well-rounded education and whatnot. This is what you need. His station is quite different than mine, and he give you a lot of good education. I'll give you that too, but I'll give you fiery commentary, as you noticed me for. Our brother here is very kind, very considerate. He gives you, the knowledge about Africa in a good, precise way, because he's a professional educator. I'm not. Okay, you know what I mean? I am not. I'm a Compton boy from Compton, California. So even though I'm a Muslim, I'm still crude in some of my ways. You know what I mean? But our brother Marcus here, he's very, very kind and very considerate. And see, so he's different. And, each one of us have our good things and bad points and about us, you know what I mean? But this is why we should follow one another, because that way we can get this education and whatnot. And this is the best way I can, as your elder, to give you this advice. When you have African brothers who got something, you take that knowledge. Don't get jealous. Okay. Don't try to find something wrong. You go and you learn from your brothers, even if 90% but there may be something in there that you forgot about. We need to keep or maintain our education. See, we need that. So please keep that in mind. When you find stations that you get good education, subscribe to it. Don't get mad. Even if he's Kunuri, even if he's Wolof or Mendinka, it's no problem. Okay? It's no problem. You get that knowledge from them because they're your brother. Okay, my brothers and sisters, I will conclude it here. Let's see what we got here. Do you think the Muslim need a caliphate because the president of Muslim countries are puppets? Yes, that's going to come. The Prophet ﷺ said that this is going to come, and it's going to come in due time. Yes, we should, because this is the best governance we have when we have one ruler and he gives the orders. Now we have 57 rulers. That's not good. And each one is under the thumb of some other Western power. The Prophet ﷺ said it will come to that. And we know it will come to that. And the caliphate, a new caliphate, will come and will be world dominant. There's no doubt about that, because we're seeing this. See, we're seeing this. So we just have to be patient. And I'm hoping it happens in my lifetime, but we have to be patient, because this will happen. The caliphate will come back, and it will be strong, brothers and sisters, very, very strong, where this caliphate will be the most dominant power on this earth. So it's coming. Our Prophet ﷺ said this. I believe what he said, because his timeline has been correct every step of the way. See, so just be mindful of that and be patient, brothers and sisters. Even people like me, sometimes I don't have patience, but then I'm quickly brought in. When you have times of distress, go to Dicker. Okay, go to Dicker. Go to your see if I have my favorite. Yeah, here we go. My favorite I have for many years. If I don't see this, I get distressed. My prayer beads here, they're old, but you know what? It fits my finger, and I seem like I know each one of these. But when there's a time of distress, we all have that. You go to make Dicker. Even if you do 100, 200, La ilaha illallah, something, or Allahu Akbar, go to your Dicker to get you back at even kill, because there's things that happen that sometimes is beyond us, because we're human beings. We're going to get sad. We're going to get angry. So we try to stay even, kill like our Prophet has ordered us, has ordered us to do. And Dicker, Allah, is one of the best things that bring you back into the mizan, the even, the center of the way, not on one extreme or the other. So just be mindful of that, brothers and sisters. So I'll leave you with that. And thanks all of you for coming in. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.